Well, first of all, I just would like to thank the organizers of the conference, people from CAUSINDY, for inviting me here from Jakarta. It's been a pleasure being back in Australia again. Karina asked me, you could talk about some of the experiences that you've had being a diplomat and working with Australia, China, and what have you. And it came to me, I asked myself, what were some of the highlights of being a diplomat for Indonesia? And I said one of the highlights probably is developing the Indonesia-China strategic partnership. That'll be one of the highlights. There will be another highlight would be having my name put on cables that were leaked by WikiLeaks. That would be one of another highlights. Not a good one, but oh well. But of course, the one that I personally held as one of my most memorable moments of diplomatic career is having a photograph taken with Peter Garrett when he was a Minister of the Environment, the Heritage and Arts. And not because he was a minister, but because he was the frontman of one of my favorite bands, Midnight Oil. So the reason why I want to talk about this is that because when we're trying to develop cooperation between the two countries, we need to go beyond the positions. We need to go beyond the status. We need to go beyond the titles. It's great that Peter Garrett was a minister at that time, but I knew him and I wanted to be interested in what he was talking about because he was the frontman of Midnight Oil. In that sense, because positions, ranks, and status reveals one side of diplomacy, but knowing the other person beyond those factors will open up opportunities that are beyond that we could see at hand. And this is basically one of the approaches that President SBOI has taken in developing cooperation, particularly with Australia, which is relationship at the personal level. President SBOI is one of those people who actually feel that there's a need for leaders to be in touch at the individual level, at personal level. He sees potential in developing cooperation not only on the basis of business as usual, but basically developing it at a more individual, caring, you could see a fraternal level. That's why he's known to have a close relationship with former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. But the truth fact is that it's not because they've always been buddies and what have you, but it's because of the frequency of the meetings between the two leaders, the many moments that they've had, in between lunches, in between dinners and what have you. And with the arrival of the new coalition government back here in Canberra again, there's almost a sure thing that President SBO will also be developing a close personal relationship with the new Prime Minister. And not necessarily because President SBO is always looking out for the new Prime Minister or what have you, or having preference from one minister over the other, but because President SBOI has always thought that it would be very important to establish a relationship with counterparts that goes beyond the demands of their official positions. So among the delegates here, we've got lawyers, we've got politicians, we've got young scientists, engineers, business and finance managers, we've got analysts, we've got government officials, we've got NGO figures as well. All of you have accomplished a lot in your field, in your respective field, and I hope that you continue to accomplish the things that you will be accomplishing in the future. But unfortunately, what we tend to do is fall into the pattern of knowing only people you are familiar with, or getting to know with people who are you want to be acquainted with people of the quote-unquote like-minded background. So you've got business-oriented people hanging out with the same likes. You've got government officials, you'll probably be hanging out on one of the other corners, and you've got the scientists and engineers in another corner. But I think in order to be an agent for change or an agent in developing better relationship between Indonesia and Australia, you need to go beyond that. You need to understand the person not only as a minister for environment, arts, and heritage, but you also need to understand the person as the frontman of Midnight Oil. And so you need to go beyond this comfort zone of you're so comfortable with your business background, with your finance background, with your engineering background. You need to go beyond that and understand the other counterparts that you're looking at with, the ones who are sitting next to you beyond that, and try to establish a better relationship based on that. And the question comes to, why should we care? Why does it matter? Because at the end of the day, while governments will try to promote cooperation between two countries, it is up to the people to make sure that this effort is carried out to the fullest. Because even governments are made of people. President SBOI in a speech in 2005 said that the relationship between Indonesia and Australia can be anything but ordinary. It is not enough for us to be just neighbors. And this was written with a feeling, at that time he was feeling that while the government-to-government cooperation is evolving, like Professor Lindsay has mentioned, but the relationships between the people-to-people remains very, quote-unquote, lacking. Deeper beneath, Indonesians and Australians often continue to treat each other as strangers. And that is why, in a recent visit of Prime Minister Abbott to Indonesia, people-to-people context was put, at least on the Indonesian side, it was put as one of the top topics for discussion between the two leaders. Both Indonesia and Australia are democracies, therefore our governments are continually moved by sentiments from the people. I mean, we love a vibrant and independent media, but the thing is the people's perspectives cannot be manipulated, I'm not saying manipulated, but guided only by the media. We need people like all of you here working in different fields, having networks which go from finance to the mining to the academia sector. We need people like you to actually also play a role in shaping the views of Indonesia, in shaping the views of Australia, and of course in shaping the views of Indonesia and Australia together. And therefore herein lies the significance of enhancing people-to-people connections between the two countries, because at the end of the day, governments change, but the interest shouldn't change. And in order to pursue that interest, you need to have the people be supporting that particular interest. Because as democracies both in Indonesia and Australia, we will have to experience governmental changes one way or another. Why should we care? Because we live as neighbors, because we share borders, because we exchange travelers more than Lady Gaga changes hairstyles, because we are both democracies open to ideas and perspectives from another, because Australia is more Asian now, like Indonesia is more quote-unquote modern these days as well. And also, most importantly, because in actuality there's not really that much similarities between our two countries. We don't speak the same language, we don't share a culture. Majority of our populations are of different religious backgrounds, and we've had our difficult episodes in our history together. And therefore, we've gone a long way, but the thing is, there's also quite a few more miles to go before we actually become the two neighboring countries that we'd like to become. And I think that's why this particular conference is very important, because this effort needs to be carried out not only by the government officials, but more particularly by those who are already influential, but still in their prime youth. Thanks.